Good evening, everyone. We are going to call the City of Deltona City Commission Workshop for Monday, January 10th, 2022 to order. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Bradford. Here. Commissioner King. Here. Commissioner McCool. Here. Commissioner Ramos.
Present.
Commissioner Sosa.
Here.
Vice Mayor Avila Vasquez. Present. And Mayor Hersberg.
Here. And now may we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner King, would you like to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, commissioners and members of the audience online, in person, and on TV. We have two items on our agenda today. The first is a discussion of the 50th or so anniversary of the City of Deltona, and the second is a review of Volusia County ECHO programs. So we'll start with the 50th or so anniversary discussion because last year was the 25th anniversary of a city. So can we kind of clarify what the 50th is or so?
We're waiting at it.
Mr. Peters.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Mayor. I believe you said it perfectly. I'm looking for clarifications on what the desire of the commission is with regard to the 50th anniversary of the Deltona Lakes subdivision, basically, and how we want to approach that. Back when we had the 25th year anniversary, we never really got to celebrate it. So this is probably an opportunity to kind of get a twofer, a late 25th, but also the 50th of the founding of the community at Deltona Lakes. So with that, I don't know if it's the desire to have a unique event or to roll it in as part of another event. But like I said, I'm looking for some conversation amongst yourselves and a consensus on how you wish to proceed.
Well, Mr. Peters, you'll be happy to know that the board has lit up, and we'll begin with the Vice Mayor and then Commissioner Bradford and Commissioner Ramos. So I think we have ideas.
Thank you, Mayor. So we brought this up because some residents reached out to the city about celebrating the 50th anniversary, and I think all the commissioners were copied on that email that came out from this resident, and so it was brought up to us. However, in conversation with staff and stuff like that, they're telling me that there is no 50th anniversary, that the city, Deltona Lakes, has been around for 60 years. So I think we need clarification before we commit to the 50th anniversary. I don't know if it's the 50th anniversary of, like you said, the first subdivision being developed, because from what I'm hearing from a lot of staff is that Deltona Lakes have been around for 60 years. So I think we need a little bit of clarification on this.
I would need to pull the plat of the original Deltona Lakes and see what the actual date on that was. But it's my understanding that's really when Deltona Lakes became an entity, was with the original plat by the Mackle brothers.
Does Ron have any idea?
I
just went,
expect
okay.
Ron heading back to his area to pull that record.
Awesome. Commissioner Bradford?
A couple of things come to my mind. That was one, because I believe the Mackle brothers started in 1962, is what they say, if I'm not mistaken. Two things, budget and COVID. Those are the two first things that pop into my brain. When we had the 25th celebration, I think we did some other stuff with those funds. We reallocated those funds, and those funds are gone. So we can't say, hey, we're going to utilize those 25th anniversary funds for this. So that leaves me going, where's these funds coming from? Because I don't remember us approving anything in the budget, but I might, be wrong. And I guess that right now is just a huge concern. I really think we got to be very cautious this year with what we're doing. We've got events planned. We've spent a lot of money, and with the COVID, especially the spread right now, I'm a little nervous to pull anything up. So that's just my 2 cents worth. But when I did a quick read up, it was 1962 when the Mackle brothers did their build.
1962? 60. Commissioner Ramos, you did not want to?
Yes, Madam Mayor, but I just wanted clarification, or I guess get a historical perspective of Deltona Lakes, and I think the Vice Mayor mentioned a little bit of it, so I'm good.
Okay, Mr. Peters.
What was the question?
The question is, funding for the 25th that we didn't use, was that just rolled back into the general fund, or was it reallocated to other things?
That's a tough question to answer because I don't know what you want. If it's something relatively simple, I think it's something we can find within our current funding. But if it's something more extravagant, we're probably going to have to find another source, such as undesignated reserves or something like that.
What happened to the funding from the 25th anniversary when we never were able to use that money? That was put back in the general fund, or was reallocated?
That would put back in the general fund.
What we didn't use?
Actually, Mayor, that would have gone back into undesignated reserves because there was money left over at the end of the year.
Well, I have dissent among the commission that says it was used. Ryan?
Yes.
Some of those, I think majority of those funds were used for the holidays.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that funding was used for the holiday. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
And I also may add that those funds did not come from the city budget. It was a donation donated by the sponsors for the 25th anniversary. And when the COVID came, that's when it was decided to use the remaining balance on the events that were done outdoors. And again, if we decide, when we find out the answer to our question about the 50th anniversary, we can take that route as well. I mean, we can always have the chamber take it over, and they'll look for the sponsors, so the residents who send in the requests can have their 50th anniversary celebration. It's just a FYI.
Commissioner Bradford?
I was just going to ask Parks for Recreation to see if they remembered. You can remember me.
What's the question?
You answered it.
Okay, so I think that the first thing we need to do is decide, are we going to have a celebration of anything? Do we make it separate? Do we make it part of something else, like you said, Mr. Peters? And what kind of a celebration are we looking at? That's the big question. I mean, we had a nice plan for the 25th. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. Commissioners, what is your Vice Mayor?
I think I spoke to Mr. Peters about this, and I came up with the idea to bring it up to Parks and Recs if it's something that we can, if Parks and Recs is having a 4th of July celebration, to maybe incorporate it into that celebration itself, and it will take care of funding and everything else, make a special side presentation for that anniversary.
Commissioner McCool?
Ditto.
For the 4th of July? I guess my big question that I'm kind of hung up here right now is, what are we celebrating? I mean, are we celebrating 50 years of it being created as Deltona Lakes, which we're not anymore, we're Deltona, although I like Deltona Lakes better. Are we looking at the plat? Are we looking at when the Mackle brothers started developing everything? Are we looking at saying 25 years, but now it's really 26 or 27? So I'm kind of lost as to what we're actually going to celebrate.
Madam Mayor, it's my understanding that back in the beginning with the Mackle brothers, they sold the community of Deltona Lakes. So I believe what we will be celebrating is the creation of the community of Deltona Lakes. In fact, I've had some people suggest that maybe we change the name of the city to Deltona Lakes. It's a little bit of a laborious process, but you know, what we all consider to be the city of Deltona started as the community of Deltona Lakes as platted in the plat book and page, and I see Ron over there vigorously looking for the initial plat, so.
It's got a magnifying glass going on, Ron. Do we have anything? Oh, yeah.
If I may, Unit 1, Deltona Lakes, was approved for plat October 3rd, 1962. Unit 2, the following day, the 4th of October, 1962. Unit 3 was approved January 17th, 1963. And then Unit 4, again, was approved October 4th, 1962. So we're, you know, 62, 63 is kind of the date. You know, that's what I've seen in the plat books. Any other questions on that history?
Commissioner McCool? No? So that would make it 60 years then in October. The 60-year anniversary of the platting of Deltona Lakes.
Yes.
Is that how it's written?
Deltona Lake subdivision, yep.
Deltona Lakes subdivision. Commissioner Bradford?
Just a couple questions, you know, with the epidemic. I don't know if it's not so much about maybe parks. Where are we at? Are we doing a carnival for July 4th this year again? Do we know? Are we going forward with that? I guess that's, you know, like the Vice Mayor had said, I'm just like, let's get an update on that. And, you know, that would be a great time to maybe do a kudos to the city after 60 years. I just want to see if we are still planning on going forward with the epidemic right now.
As of right now, we are planning on doing the 4th of July as last year, incorporating the carnival. So that is part of the plans this year.
You good, Commissioner?
Yeah, I just wanted to verify it was going to be the carnival and it was going to be the same size as it was last year, because that was a beautiful event.
Yeah, it was a great event. Commissioner McCool?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we are doing the carnival. You acknowledge we're doing the carnival
Yes, we are.
again. Birth of a nation, birth of a city, win-win. I mean, rolling it up, definitely. We can acknowledge that. Like, can I ask where this started? Like, how did this get put out here? Did we have requests from residents?
She said request from residents, yeah, because of the 50 years. I don't remember.
We were all copied on that email. It came from one specific resident.
Okay.
Commissioner King?
My question would be, well, first of all, let me say, I don't think it's a bad idea to celebrate. I think we should celebrate 60 years, not 50 years, because it is 60 years. But I'm wondering, I'm thinking back to when we did the Bacon and Brew Festival. That was such an awesome event, and I know that the Chamber was super involved in that. I'm wondering if we couldn't set up something similar to that in conjunction with 4th of July and the Carnival. And if so, what was the cost to the city to do Bacon and Brew? I don't know that there was a lot of cost in that, because I think a lot of that came from businesses in the community and the chamber. Am I right?
Is that not coming up again? Bacon and brews? The bacon and brews?
Yes.
Mr. Peters?
We have an item on the next agenda for that. It's scheduled to be in November of 22. I
Okay.
don't recall the specific dates, but Bacon and Brews are coming back in November.
All right, so I'm not saying that we should do a bacon and brew, but I'm thinking, can't we do some other event similar to that? Not call it bacon and brew. Let's call it the 60th anniversary of Deltona Lakes. But have some, we can have vendors, we can have part of the history of the city. I don't mean move the little red schoolhouse, but we got a lot of stuff that we could display. Isn't there some way that we could do that in an afternoon, along with music and other things to make it festive, where it might not cost us a whole lot of money to put it on, but it would be in conjunction with, we're already going to have a crowd there because of 4th of July and the Carnival. So maybe we could do something like that, and we could, kill two birds with one stone.
Madam Mayor, listening to what Commissioner King said, if we were going to do that, I would probably shoot for sometime around the 1st of October based on the initial recordation date. The other thing is, around the 1st of October, we don't necessarily get cooler, but there's a little drop in the humidity, so it may be an opportune time weather-wise also, as opposed to a 4th of July that's going to be extremely hot.
Commissioner Bradford?
All right, I'm just going to throw it up here because I'm up here gritting my teeth. One, I'd like to know Park's opinion. Two, just because one resident, which I think it was a great idea, recommends that we do it. I mean, I don't necessarily we go out there and we throw this huge event. This is something we should budget. If we were going to do this should have been budgeted out. We want to plan something. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. If we've already got an event planned, okay, let's throw it out, kudos to it, but to throw a whole nother event in there, you're talking a lot of money. In October, we have Halloween. That's a lot on staff. Staff has a lot to do during the month of October for Halloween, and to add another event to do a 60th celebration because we thought it was a 50th and now we're going to roll it over to 60th. If it was 75, I'd be like, woohoo, let's knock it out. Let's plan it. But it's really not. And we've only had one resident even bring this up. So we're talking about spending thousands of dollars for one. I think we should acknowledge it, but maybe for the 75th, something, get it out there. I don't know. Parks, what do you recommend? I mean, it's taking it out of your budget, and you know how busy staff is the month of October, and then you've got Thanksgiving, and then you've got Christmas. It just seems like a lot.
It's definitely something we can look into and vet. But as you mentioned, we do have events. We have 4th of July, which is a huge, massive event. A few months later, with Spooktacular, our October event, that is draining for the entire month. Now, one thing we can do, if there's something we can associate with the events that we already have going on, I mean, something like that may be feasible. We still have to vet it out and just to see what additional costs, manpower, et cetera, we need to make that happen. But again, it'll be a matter of kind of what does this commission anticipate on having in that place for that 60th? What exactly are you looking for? Commissioner King gave an example of like the bacon and brew. Is that something universal that the commission would want? So we'd need an idea of what you're looking for that 60th celebration before we can start vetting that.
I would agree with you, sir. Vice Mayor and then Commissioner McCool.
I still believe we can incorporate that into our July 4th. You already have your plan set for July 4th. Adding one more agenda to the July 4th event, I don't think it's going to make a big deal on it. And as far as budget, I mean, we budgeted 2 years in a row for the Deltona Festival of Nations. And for 2 years, we have not had that Festival of Nations event. So if you need extra money to add it to the July 4th event, then maybe we can dip into that, those funds. Because we did budget 2 years in a row for the Deltona Festival of Nations.
I believe this current budget has $10,000 that the commission added for a event, but it's like an untitled event, just in case we came up with something. I believe thoughts of even Juneteenth came about during that approval, but Festival of Nations last year was not. It was not in the budget. It was pulled prior to the budget being official.
Okay.
Commissioner McCool?
Don't go far. Could you tell me briefly, what events do we have planned? Now, I'm not, I'm just the major. What major events do we have planned? And go over them slowly so that I can ask you a question in conjunction with that, okay?
Okay, for Easter, we have Extravaganza.
Extravaganza, that's going to be held at Dewey, correct? Okay, and that is in April,
Be in
correct?
April.
Okay, go ahead.
Then we have our next major event will be the 4th of July event. Actually, in between there, even though it's not huge, but we'll have our Pet Fest down at Keysville, but that's not a major event.
We have what?
Pet Fest.
Okay.
Our Pet Fest. It's usually, it's in the spring, so depending on the availabilities.
Okay.
So 4th of July, after that, our next major event will be our kind of spooktacular event in October. And then we have our winter holiday event that we do in December.
I'm triggered by that event, so I would like clarity. Are we having a parade, a traditional parade this year, Mr. Reckley?
That will be a part of our upcoming discussion as far as next budget and how we budget. We'll definitely vet that out of how we want to approach adding parades and different things to our events.
Okay.
You good, Commissioner?
Yes.
So let's go over this one more time. Easter is April 17th, so you're looking at extravaganza around that time.
Probably a week prior, yes.
Okay, so it's middle of April. Pet Fest is usually, your dog park fest is usually in March.
March, yes.
And that's usually held at where?
Keysville Dog Park.
Keysville. Then you have July 4th at Dewey. Then you have Spooktacular at
Correct.
Dewey. And
Correct.
then you have Christmas to be determined where.
Correct.
So now let's talk about some other events. I don't see anything in here, aside from the 4th of July, for Memorial Day or Veterans Day, because there's been a discussion that we have not had anything for Memorial Day or Veterans Day that the city puts on.
Madam Mayor.
So, I mean, we need, the Veterans Museum and Park belongs to the city of Deltona. Am I correct, sir?
That's correct.
Do we maintain that?
Yes, we
Do
do.
we own the buildings?
That's correct.
So therefore, we need to plan something in this timetable with that Veterans Museum, because it was very disappointing last time. We can't only rely on a volunteer group to do that. We have to start using our facilities that we have. Yes, Mr. Peters.
Yes, ma'am. I was just going to say that we're going to reach out to the veteran group to discuss a means in which the city can be more involved in those events. They're very important events in our community. We have a large number of vets, and the people that have been involved in it in the past are at a stage now where they're not going to be able to handle it. So we will be having communication with the veterans group as to the best way to go forward. and be coming back to you at a later date for both Memorial Day and Veterans Day.
So looking at the calendar, this year, July 4th is on a Monday. So you have the entire weekend leading up to that. Correct.
That's correct.
I know it's hot. It's hot.
It is
But discussion-wise, you do have Saturday and Sunday before that to plan something. Were you going to talk, Vice Mayor?
No, Mr. Peters answered my question.
Okay, so, I mean, we're in January now, so we have city events for the spring and the summer and the fall. Are we doing a workshop on our city events, or?
I believe we were going to maybe incorporate some of the events with our parks fee schedule when we have that discussion.
Mr. Peters, is that good? Because I think that what we need to really do is, I mean, I'm all for doing a celebration of the life of Deltona, definitely. I just want to be clear that it is going to be a good event, because in the past, we've had not stellar events. So if we're going to do this and put the time, and especially the staff time and the effort that you guys have to put into, this thing needs to be planned out. I don't see it happening before July 4th. I mean, before that, in order for everything to get settled and work with the center and with Joe and so forth, maybe you guys can pull something together there. But I don't see it happening before the 4th of July. Yes, sir.
I was just going to say, we had planned to have a workshop with the commission and talk about our overall recreation program, that is programs and other items that we have going forward. So I can't remember the specific date that I had marked on my calendar, but we are planning to come to you all in the next month or two, because we have the contract is out on the soccer program, and we wanted to have a discussion with the commission before we bring that forward for approval.
Okay. Commissioners, any last comments on this? Mr. Peters, I think with you and your staff and with Ryan, if you, anyone else, Stacy, that has input, Ron, think maybe some brainstorming to see what is the best way to do this. Talk with Joe at the center. I don't, you know, if we were looking a year down the road, 18 months down the road, you could say you could do it at the community center. You know what I mean? Like you could do the little schoolhouse. You'd have the landscaping, and you'd have that river withdrawal project done. It would be a perfect place to do that, and have like an exhibit or something like that. But that's just not possible right now, right, sir? It's just not going to be possible for at least a year and a half. So, any other comments, commissioners, or do we give this to staff and see what they can roll around and bring that back to us and see? Yes, ma'am.
I guess my concern is if we just hand it over to staff, that all of a sudden we're going to start seeing things planned. And I want to make sure that we have a consensus up here, you know, like I'm with the vice mayor on this, that if we do something, it should be one of our already planned events ready to go. You know, May 20th, just to throw these out here, we're talking about this celebration. May 20th is Memorial Day. November 11th is Veterans Day. Juneteenth, we talked about that. That's June 19th, and September 11th, 9/11. So, you know, we're talking about an event that we don't even have planned or budgeted again, but yet we have 4 other events that we've talked about this last year of doing. So, not trying to kick anybody in the head, but, you know, I think the July 4th celebration is the best time. You know, throw something in there during one of the time slots, and let's celebrate there. But I don't see us putting any more money going forward, and I just want to make sure if we hand it over to staff that we're not going to be surprised when it comes back up here on the dais.
Commissioner McCool, did you
I'm good.
remove
I'm good,
yourself?
Madam Mayor. Thank you.
So I think Mr. Peters internally see what can be done with July 4th. It seems to be that there's not an opposition to that. And if you can pull something together, if it's, and how we would do something like that, because there are, I think, are greater minds than me trying to plan something like that. So you don't want me doing it.
Madam Mayor, I'll just make one observation. As you indicated, July 4th is on a Monday. I'm hoping that we can make it a weekend event similar to what we did with Carnival, and maybe we set aside one day of that weekend for the anniversary celebration.
Sounds good, Mr. Peters, and can you just bring that forward to us with another update, either at a future commission meeting coming up in the next 2 or at a workshop, so that we have some, as the Vice Mayor Commissioner Bradford said, some idea of what we're looking at internally. Okay? We're good, commissioners? All right, we'll move on to item 2, a review of the Volusia County ECHO program. And gracing us with her presence this evening is the Trail Queen, Pat Northey. Thank you for coming out today. Mr. Peters?
Yes, ma'am. The ECHO grant program, we currently have 4 projects in process. The first one is the West Quow Pavilion. The second one is at Festival Park. Both of these projects are in the process of being closed out so that we get the final paperwork to the ECHO folks. Then we have 2 remaining projects. One of them is at Blue Heron Park, Phase 2, and then the Rookery. In both of these cases, there's a parking lot being provided, a short trail, and a raised boardwalk. The Blue Heron Phase 2, we had a bid on that about 3 months ago, and emphasis on the word a bid. We were not comfortable going forward with a single bid, so we will be rebidding that. We know that there are at least one other contractor that expressed interest in bidding it this time around, so we should have multiple bids. Rookery Park, we need to do some additional borings because the raised walkway, the posts need to be founded on hard material, and the information we have right now, we cannot say how deep those posts need to go. Tetra is our engineer. We met with them earlier today. They have already reached out to Universal, and they should have the borings and everything and report back to us in the next 4 weeks so that we can proceed with finalizing that design. The other thing that we discussed is that on both of these projects, the project called for a gravel parking lot with a paved handicap space and mulch walkway. As you all know, we are reimagining, redeveloping, rediscovering our park program. One of the things that we're looking at is, how do we reduce long-term maintenance and long-term reconstruction. Whenever you have the gravel parking lots, there's a need to go back and add gravel over time because the gravel works its way into the soil. So it's my desire that we start a program to pave our parking lots, and that way they will last longer. You have marked parking spaces. If any of you all have been to games at some of our parks, people park haphazardly, and I venture to say that we probably get 25 to 40% less parking because people are not staying within the confined parking area. Now, in doing this, we would do the paving as a bid alternate, and we have identified funds in the city that we can use to pay for the paving because the ECHO grants were based on gravel parking and mulch walkways. So rather than mess up the entire ECHO thing, we would do the bid alternate and we would pay the difference because long-term that's what we need. So that's a quick update. Now, it's my understanding that this coming year, the ECHO board has 2 funding cycles. I believe one of them is next month and then one of them is in August. Typically, it requires that we have a full set of plans as part of our application in order to get funded. As I said, 2 of these projects are in process to be finalized here in the next 30 days. The other 2 projects, ambitiously, we're looking at November of this year to get them complete. That gets it past the August date. So we need to reach out to the ECHO folks and find out if we are substantially under construction, can we still apply? The other thing that means if we have to pick out what our next project's going to be, and we need to proceed with getting plans done. So that's basically a quick synopsis of where we are today. One of the projects that we've had, a couple of projects that we've been looking at that are similar to the Rookery and Blue Heron. They're small in nature. For a larger project, and while the Straw project is under construction, I, whomever you want to blame, have been talking about taking the boat ramp at Lakeshore out. It's an extremely unsafe boat ramp. People come out of the lake pulling a boat. They're pulling into a major travelway for Lakeshore, and if they overshoot Lakeshore, they're now into what has become a major pedestrian walkway connecting Thornby and Green Springs. So we have talked about internally the idea of bridging Lakeshore and taking the waterway under Lakeshore and creating a kayak canoe launch area on the parking lot side. This is not a cheap project, but I believe it will give us a very unique venue for West Volusia. There are a number of boat ramps, including one less than a half a mile down the road. And there's one down on Lemon Bluff Road. There's 2 of them over at Lake Monroe and DeBerry, and one in Seminole County, DeBerry and Seminole. Then you got High Banks Marina serving West Volusia in terms of boat traffic. So there's nothing right now for canoeing and kayaking. And this part of the river is fairly shallow, so it's conducive to kayaking and canoeing. So that is a project that we have talked about here. One of the things that this does is it's a good segue into what we have been calling the Blue Wave Trail. The Blue Wave Trail is a series of lakes from down near Doyle all the way to the north of Elkham. Interestingly, every one of these lakes are at the same elevation. The only problem is the roadway crossings. Well, in doing this project with the bridge or culvert or whatever we build it out of, this process can be carried on to the Blue Wave Trail to open up those lakes and make a very, very attractive Blue Wave park system for people to kayak and canoe. So with that, that's an update. It's potential projects, and I'm sure Ms. Northey could provide more detailed information as to the funding process if you all so desire, and I will open it up to any questions you may have.
Before we go down the list, commissioners, I just passed out to you, I had these from another event that we gave out. They're the Nature Park little brochures, and you can kind of get an idea if you open up the map inside there of our parks, what parks are there, and the lakes for the Blue Waves Trail and everything like that. It's a great map, Jared. Pat, would you be willing to come up and answer a couple of questions questions. What Mr. Peters has brought up before we get into, I'd rather have you address a couple of these things before we get into the commission discussion. Sure. And the one that we talked about, which two projects are still not even started yet, right, Mr. Peters, the last two, and then the two that are almost ready to be finished. How does that hamstring us from applying for anything else?
First of all, thank Pat Northey, 2310 Carson Lane, Deltona. I represent District 5 on the ECHO board. I'm Fred Lowry's, Councilmember Fred Lowry's appointee to the ECHO board, and I serve as vice chair. As you know, ECHO had the first 20 years of ECHO had come to a close, and we went out for reauthorization, and it was overwhelmingly supported, which thank you to any of the taxpayers who are listening, because it's a great program and it's done a lot of great things. As part of the reauthorization, the ECHO board took a look at the operating procedures that we used the last time, tweaked some of them. This Thursday afternoon, we have a goal-setting session, and I would be very interested in hearing what you all would like to see ECHO do in the next. It's a 20-year program. We're at the beginning of a 20-year program with lots of resources, so we have an opportunity to make some changes. I'm going to, as one of my recommendations, and it is a recommendation, has to be approved by the other members of the board, I think we need to do a review of existing inventory of all the, and I'm not talking about just what we have already funded, because we have a really good handle on that, but what is out there, number of ball fields, kayak launches, John, that, as you were talking about that came to mind. How many kayak launches do we have across the county? Where are they located? And do a strategic plan after we do an inventory of what we need to do, because we have a real opportunity here to create a real quality of life with the ECHO funding, and you put that in with some of our Volusia Forever programs and really enhance both programs. Because we've had some experience with some cities that have not, it's not been an abuse. It's been just, they've come in, their enthusiasm, they get approved, and then certainly over the last couple of years, especially with COVID and construction and everything else, the pipeline that's out there, everything has slowed down. So some of the projects aren't being worked on yet. And so the board, the committee recommended, let me be sure, because we're a recommending body to the county council. The committee recommended that we try to get a handle on the outstanding projects, bring those to closure before we go out and give a city or a not-for-profit any more dollars, so that we're knowing exactly how those projects are moving forward. So certainly Deltona has. And let me just add this. For years, I am so proud to be here in Deltona and know that we're out there going after ECHO money. And thank you, Jerry, because Jerry has really been aggressive at doing it, and I mean that in a good way. The first 15 years or so of ECHO, this city rarely touched it at all. There was a few projects that you went for, but it's an opportunity here for us to define exactly the kind of stuff that John is talking about with the kayak Blueway. That is an exciting project to me, and it's something that would be, for me, that's a big strategic vision project, and that's the kind of stuff that I'm going to be looking at as a member of the ECHO board. What's the big picture here? But we're trying, y'all aren't the only ones. We've had a couple cities that, a couple of not-for-profits, YMCA, got behind on a couple of their projects, and in fact, the board pulled a couple of their projects and said they've been languishing for too long, and that money is getting held up when somebody else might be able to use it. And so we decided to pull those projects. And we haven't done that with Deltona. I think y'all are still good. That's not been an issue. I know that annually we do an annual review of the projects. to see where they're at. And we also, on projects that are already done, you're required to maintain those. That was a 40-year requirement. I believe we've cut that down to 20 years. So not all is lost. There are 2 cycles this year, which is different. We've usually only had 1 cycle, but and that calendar has not been approved yet by the ECHO board. That's a tentative recommended calendar. But that will open up opportunities for more projects to come in annually if we're doing two call for projects. And I wasn't clear, John, whether Deltona would be ready in the fall to come back for additional projects, or whether you think that the delay is going to continue through the fall on the other 2.
The first 2 projects will be done here in the next 30 days, 45 days. The next 2 projects.
Yeah, the final 2.
Pardon me?
The final 2.
The final 2 would go to bid, let me get my dates here. We would get the bids in on one project on April 1st, the other one on May 1st, and let me remind you, this is an aggressive schedule.
Yeah.
And completion would be around the end of October for the first project and November, December timeframe for the second project.
Well, I would encourage you then to come to the board, the committee, and once you get into the development of those projects, to come to the committee and see if the committee will waive that requirement and allow you to put something in the fall for your fall, for our fall call for projects. So I can't promise that will happen, but we have made exceptions on other projects. A good example is over in Holly Hill, the
Pictona.
The Pictona, that project actually went under development, under construction, and when they came in and we went ahead and funded that. So if it's a good project, if it's worthwhile, I think that, you paint the right vision. Certainly the board has been wanting to see more than less. So I would encourage you to do that.
So basically, the ECHO rules are that the projects have to be finished before you apply for anything else.
You're only supposed to have like 2 outstanding. Yeah.
So if we have the 2 finished and the 2 outstanding, we still cannot bid.
That would be the rules as they are now.
Okay.
But I'm saying I would say if you wanted to ask for an exception to that rule, I would not discourage you. I don't, especially if you are far along in the other 2 projects. If they're coming to a close, then certainly I think the committee would be open to hearing your argument.
The other question that I have is what Mr. Peters mentioned with when the projects went forth with basically mulch or gravel parking, mulch trails and gravel parking lots, and we're going to pave the parking lots now. Does that affect the original application?
I was listening to that, and that would be that's going to be a staff question. I know that we won't pay for parking lots. That's not something that we pay for. Or stormwater. We've had requests for very attractive stormwater ponds, but we have denied them. And just also know that as a recommending body, anybody is free, any jurisdiction is free to go to the county council and ask the county council to consider it, and they might make exceptions as well. I don't know what the impact would be on those grants. I think that probably will be something that I'll ask about privately on Thursday. Well, not privately, I'll ask it in the public domain on Thursday, how that happens. I know that we like to see, at least I do, non-pervious surfaces. I don't like to see them. I like to see a pervious surface, but there's an issue that's...
Madam Mayor, on that particular front, as I said, The paving work would be as a bid alternate. That allows us to proceed with this work, but also have time to work with the ECHO folk to make sure that we're not going to get sideways with them.
Yeah.
So we're doing it in a way that we can still get, information. The second thing, and I want to thank Ms. Northey for bringing this up, is the boat launch, the kayak canoe launch at Lakeshore. I think we have a rather unique situation here that may be worthy of the ECHO board giving us an exception. And that is the fact that the Soda Straw project is going to be under construction. And rather than impact this area twice, it would be advantageous to have this work done during that 18 months of construction for the straw project. That way the residents don't get impacted negatively twice over a much longer period of time. So that would be the basis of our request for a waiver.
And I think that's probably a good argument that you can make on that one. Again, I'm just one of nine members, but I would certainly support that argument,
Okay,
especially in support of the people who are going to be impacted. And I just really quickly, there is a new ECHO logo. And the ECHO page on the county council or the county government of Volusia.org web site, there is a very nice ECHO program transparency dashboard. This is new. This has been just this last couple of months that this has been activated. Gives you everything, tells you where the ECHO projects are, how much they were, what element of ECHO they are. So you might want to just take a look at that. And then there's they redid the website for ECHO. It's really very thorough and helpful. And we're meeting, as I said, on Thursday, and goal setting will be a topic. So if you all have some ideas about goals that you'd like to see ECHO do, shoot me an email, give me a call. I'm happy to forward them. I'm just excited that we're actually doing projects here because we didn't for years. So, good job.
Thanks, Pat.
Okay.
I'm going to go through the commissioners if you have questions. And Pat, if you have any answers that that come up that the management can answer, please feel free to let us know and participate. Commissioner McCool, then Commissioner Bradford, and then Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to ask on the subject of the fund usage, and I'm going to ask this question first. If future funds can be used on a prior project, meaning I am adamant also about, first of all, ADA compliance. I get that. But to me, it really defeats the purpose of having nature if you're going to pave over nature. And even if it's more upkeep, it's in keeping with the spirit of the protection of the parks and how we use those parks and be in those parks. So I'm asking if we have a more natural parking lot substance. I know that over in New Smyrna, over in Port Orange, they have coquina, they have shell. Mr. Peters, is that possible, or is it just not possible, or just inconvenient and more expensive for us to do it that way? With the exception of the ADA compliance.
Well, ADA compliance is a major element. We can't just willy-nilly say no, because the 2010 change to the ADA law, as a public agency, we're required to meet that requirement on any new facility. I'm going to have to look into it. I'm not ready to answer that question at this point, and so it'd be pure speculation on my part.
Okay, so just for the record, I'm asking that we, in doing these projects, keep with the spirit of the park. I mean, I understand, I want to be compliant, I want everyone to have the opportunity, but I have a problem with paving more as we're developing a lot of land in Deltona as it is and paving over, so I want us to keep that in mind in developing these parks. So Ms. Nordy, if I could ask this, do you know offhand, were we to be adamant about doing this with coquina or shell or some other natural, material, is in the future upkeep, or does that need to be budget in the initial project ask?
Is it green?
Okay. I'm not sure I'm clearly understanding you. When you commit to an ECHO project as a city or a not-for-profit, you commit to taking care of them. That's an operational expense that is not paid for through ECHO funding. ECHO is for the hard, the building, the restoration. We don't pay for maintenance, and so, but there is a commitment. The acquiring, the agency that is asking for the money is required to commit to maintaining that project for, we have it used to be 40 years, I believe it's now 20 years. So that would be a budget item for you, not for ECHO.
I understand. I didn't understand the particulars, right, of the actual budget, right? If we could figure upkeep into that project. I mean, I understand that we have to physically, our department, so it's.
We would approve construction dollars, but not operational dollars. That's not. There's no operational dollars at this point that ECHO pays for.
Okay.
Okay. With the exception, let me clarify, there is a set aside of $1.5 million for the Volusia County Trail System that will allow, for instance, the trail across Gemini Springs is from 1994, and it needs to have some renovation. There are dollars there to do that. But that will be identified separate from, that's identified separate from the original project.
Ms. McCool?
Yes.
One of the concerns I have with any non-pervious pervious materials such as coquina and that type of thing is long-term maintenance. The trail system that Ms. Northey has championed is all paved. And part of the reason it's all paved is also to allow easier access for maintenance equipment that may need to go down the trail to trim trees and things of that nature. We have a number of parks that have what I call unpaved parking lots. And I invite you to go out there and look at some of them. When it's dry, like right now, they're extremely rutted and difficult to drive. When they're wet, it's even worse. That's part of the reason that I would really like to see the city move toward paving. Now, I appreciate your concern, and one of the things that I'm going to be a big advocate for with the parking lots, because I think there's opportunity to teach people, is the use of eco-friendly retention. These would be swales that have the right type of plant material. Usually they're native plant material. The water goes in those areas. They're allowed to perk into the ground. It gets the nutrients out. And there's ways of doing stormwater management in conjunction with the parking lot that reduces the impact on the environment. And I'm all for doing that type of thing with the parking lots. And if Ms. Northey said there's a reluctance to pay for stormwater management and paving, I appreciate that. But the reality is when you build coquina parking lots and the engineer had to fill out the St. John's permit, a little secret for you, they treat the coquina parking just like it's paved because it becomes so dense that the water just runs off. So you're effectively creating, from a stormwater standpoint, you're creating the same amount of runoff you would for a paved parking lot. So I'll just give you that.
And thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you for that honesty and feedback. And I'm still of the belief that we have the best stormwater department in the county, and that they could manage that if we saw our way fit to keeping that environment natural. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Bradford?
I think it was about 2 years ago, we actually paid, I believe it was UF, to assist us with doing a drawing for the exploratory park that we had previously approved. That drawing is done, ready, part of the strategic plan to my knowledge. Ryan, do we have any updates on anything with that whatsoever? Or Ron, you may remember that as well. That right there, I believe it completely falls into when we're talking about a nature park, because it had activities for families, and it was like nature burrows and nature tunnels for kids to grow through. And it was, you talk about nature, it was like all kinds of activities, but it was all natural. It was originally planned for the center, but then we did part of that parking. So, you know, plans are done. And that was like $100,000 in plans already ready to go. So I'd love to have an update on that, because it was just to be temporarily put on hold, and I haven't heard anything about it since.
Ron Paradise, Community Services for the record. Yeah, we did have University of Florida do some proposal for some property out at the center that was going to be kind of like a farmer's market. And, you know, there's still some discussion that comes up on that talks about kind of, you know, in the context of a botanical garden. We still have those plans. They're still in the office. You know, we could always certainly revisit them at the direction of the City Commission.
That was actually not just a farmer's market, as you're referring to it as. It was actually, I believe, called the Exploratory Park.
You are correct.
Yeah.
That was one element of it.
Right, and there was discussion of maybe not even doing the farmer's market there because of the, you know, the location of it. But as far as nature goes, the Exploratory Park was just that. It was an exploratory park and activities for children to do. And I believe we voted as a commission to have that put as a future park. It was just a matter of where. So I don't know if it is something that we'd like to bring up. Like I said, the plans are done. Those plans were ready and done. So I don't know if Parks had any input, because I know before they had said something about a possible another location for them, and I believe that's where we put it, was that we were looking at possibly another location to put the exploratory park rather than the center, because there was concern of bringing more people to the center when there would be weddings and other activities going on. But to me, that's, I'm just going to, you know, straight up, that's just ridiculous. I mean, part of the center is to attract people to go to the center, to have more people at the center, and that's what it's for, the community. So, you know, as a commission, I don't know, guys, is that something, the people who haven't, the new commissioners that have been here, has anybody seen it? Would you like to see it? Because UF did a lot of work on that, and it was quite amazing what they did.
I think that was the $1.5 million project, correct? It was about a $1.5 million project that was going to be around the center, and I remember that around where the retention area is and so forth, right, in the back, and then...
Right, and then we took half of it for parking, and that's the one with the natural burrows and, you know, the like little walk-through trails, and then they had, you know, there was
like an auditorium or amphitheater type thing too there, right?
Yeah, we even had an amphitheater there for the kids and training where, you know, kids can come and learn and educate. So, I mean, it was more than not a farmer's market, so.
Mr. Peters, can you go and please have the clerk's office find those meeting minutes and find out what the commission approved, please? What was the final decision on that? Let us know, because we don't want to have something that was approved be sitting there, and if it was not approved, we need to see what the status was of that also. Was it 2 years ago, Anita? It was you and Marcia, I remember that.
Yeah,
Or was it,
I think
was 2 years
at least
ago?
2 years ago, because it was pre-COVID.
More? 3 years?
2 or 3.
Time
How long have you
flies.
been here?
Was it before you?
Was it before you guys? Yeah. 3 years?
Really?
Well, because we went through the COVID, so it was kind of put on hold, and then we went through COVID, and it was never brought back up. So it's probably been 3 years, 3.5 years.
Please, yeah, if you can
Ryan, are
go
you
back and
familiar
check
with
and
that?
let us know what the
Right, you're familiar
status
with that
was of
project,
that
right?
decision-making for the,
Ryan was here,
that
so
part.
it was after Ryan was here.
okay. And Victor said he was here too, Commissioner Ramos. So,
Yeah, because
Okay.
we spent a lot of money on those plans, so I hate to see that just go to waste. Happy to see ECHO was redone. Ms. Norty, thank you so much for being here. I don't know who did this, Jerry, great job. Staff, y'all, appreciate it very much. I think it's a lot of information. But I'd like to see us continue with what we've been doing as far as these parks that are approved and getting them done. We're already in the works. And I'd like to, like you're saying, know the status of the Exploratory Park.
perfect. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. And I was not a elected official at that time, but I think the problem with the park that Commissioner Bradford is talking about, I think it had to do something with funding. It didn't go very far, but we can always take a look at it again. So one of my questions was answered, which is the paving of the parking, not covered by ECHO. However, my comment is, as much as I like the nature comment from Commissioner McCool, and I can vision that look. However, I also have that vision of, I like to stop over at Fireman's Park once in a while when I see a lot of family in the park. And I can always remember, and I think I brought this up at one of the commission meetings, I always remember this family getting out of their car and had to carry their child because they couldn't push the wheelchair through the parking lot because it's the
Coquina?
no, it's the gravel.
Gravel?
The rocks. So, I went over to them and I asked them about their opinion about if we could change the gravel to cement, then they welcome, and they were so excited if we did. And they're local residents of that area, and they always go to that park. So to me, I think it would be ADA compliance by fixing our parking lots instead of gravel. It is very hard to push a wheelchair through that. So I'm in favor of the paving the parking lots in the park, especially in Fireman's Park, which is, and that's also the problem we had over by Lakeshore Drive, the community center. That was one of the biggest complaints we had when we had an event at Lakeshore Drive. People complained because the rocks would get stuck in their tires and stuff like that. So I'm just letting you know one of my experiences with that.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Peters, what is the Lakeshore Community Center lot? What type of material is that at Lakeshore?
Can you answer that one more time?
The parking lot at Lakeshore, at the community center, what type of surface is that? Is it gravel? Is it the coquina? What is shell mixture?
It's a mixture of all three, with a heavy emphasis on dirt. Certain parts of it are very difficult. You got to remember, people are taking pickup trucks. They're pulling trailers with sometimes heavy boats. If the soil is even wet at all, they rut it. And so that goes back to what I'm talking about. If you go to DuPont Park over off of Elkham and Howland,
Horrible.
You do not want to go there after a rainstorm. You may as well stop at the local car wash. And what's even more distressing to me is that same runoff that has that clay sand is washing into the lake. So, you know, there's environmental damage occurring as a result of the fact that we don't have any means of cleaning that stormwater before it gets into the lake itself. So as I said, from a maintenance standpoint, an operational standpoint, from an ADA standpoint, because even in the parts that we're not paving, we have to have a paved handicap space. I marvel at the number of parks that I've been to where you have the concrete handicap space, and when they get off of that handicap space, they're in ADA non-compliance because you got to go through a gravel parking lot, or you got to go through the grass, or you got to go through a mulch walkway. There's not an ADA compliant sidewalk to get you to where you want to be. When you look at it holistically, there's, you know, it's better. Now, there are things such as pervious asphalt, pervious concrete. I'm not a big fan of it because over time, material gets into the pores and then it doesn't work. You spend all that extra money to have this fancy pavement, and within 2 years, it will not function as it was intended. I would much rather have a solid asphalt surface with the corresponding swales with vegetative material in it that serves everybody much better.
Continuing on that vein, what I see here, we have 4 outstanding projects right now with ECHO, and they're all 4 nature parks. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So looking at the future of ECHO and that it's a 20-year program, and we have a situation at Lakeshore Drive that is in the connector of the trails, I mean, from Thornby to Green Springs, and the trail that was put in there is beautiful. It's a beautiful asset. It cleaned up that area. It really is really used and so forth. The problem at Lakeshore Drive, since we're talking about ECHO, are the 1, 2, 3 buildings and the parking lot. All of it is a failure. The buildings are a failure and the parking lot's a failure. If you've been in those buildings recently, you may remember the smell. If you haven't been in there, I encourage you to wear a mask. So looking at the future of ECHO and looking at a strategic planning, from a strategic planning perspective, is there a way, instead of doing another nature park, which we've got 4 going, and if you look at our map, we have a lot of passive parks here throughout the city, and I see in the back we've got 2 more that you want to do, the Anderson and 9th Street one and the other one. Great ideas, but to take our ECHO possibility and invest in more of those types of parks when we really have a gem sitting on Lakeshore Drive that really needs help. Is that something this commission would look at to focus on for the next ECHO project, and look at how we can put that together and maybe pitch to what Ms. Northey talked about in terms of building up that whole entire area? Since we have the straw withdrawal, we've already had some vegetation removed and so forth. Because if it's going to take us this long to do 4 parks, we are basically shafted out of the first grant cycle. We're done. We're going to be praying for the second grant cycle, saying a prayer, going to the ECHO board, you know? And they're all the same type of park, which I think are great. But the focus, if we have this 20-year program of dollars, and you're talking about celebrating the 60 years of Deltona, that is it's a great spot. And I just don't see any more commercial development down there. I don't see, I mean, maybe we can possibly have a restaurant or a bike shop or something come in there, but the reality is the shape that those buildings are in, that party is not going to happen unless you're going to sell it and sell the package and have somebody else develop it. That's just not going to work otherwise, because they are in very poor shape. And the smell in those buildings, just from sitting, is really going to be hard to get out. Really is. So that's just my pitch for that whole area to look at and see what, because by the time the second grant cycle comes, we can maybe have, if the commission agrees, some sort of a plan for that area of what we would ask for, and maybe come to you and see what your expertise would be if the commission agrees to something like that. You know, and looking at that. Commissioner McCool and then Commissioner Bradford.
This is also, we broached this subject, and it'll be coming back up as part of our strategic plan as well. And I am all for that. I'm not an engineer. I'm a nature lover. I'm about reusing, recycling what we have. I'm about, we're doing a water withdrawal project there, right down by the lake. And I'm about quality, right, as well. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm expressing concerns about using natural materials, and we're touting nature parks, and I want them to be inclusive. That's all I'm saying. I didn't say that I had the answer, right? And I'm absolutely concerned about ADA compliance and serving and being inclusive to all of our residents. I'm concerned about our budgetary concerns about that. I'm concerned about the engineering. But I'm also concerned about us thinking outside the box, because if we're talking about planning into 20 years, we have to use newer methodology, right? Newer materials, whatever we need to do, we gotta stop thinking in terms of what's convenient all the time. We are a city on the move. We're moving into the future. That's all I'm saying. I want us to think about materials and methodology that takes us out to the 20 years. We have a beautiful opportunity down there, and it's a bragging point to say that we are capturing and using. We're bringing us into the future by doing that. That's all I want to say. I don't want us not to do it just because it's hard or inconvenient. I want us to be prepared. I want us to prepare our residents for those thoughts, right? What is innovative? What are we doing? We talk about that. If we open our book back here in our comprehensive plan, one of our first thing in our comprehensive plan says bringing us in when we're developing ecological, protecting our resources. It's the very first thing in our comprehensive plan here, and that's all I'm talking about doing. So I don't know how we get there. I'm not the professional. I'm not an engineer like Mr. Peters. However, I am thinking about the future and conserving what we do have, because we've paved a lot over, right? And we talk about that. So that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Bradford?
Mayor, thank you for bringing that back up. You know, that is a very valid point. You know, we did discuss that, as Commissioner McCool said, as part of the strategic plan. Jerry presented an amazing presentation to us. My years are going together, last year, the year before. And we talk about things and then we move on to the next thing. And I think this is one of the gems of Deltona. You know, that area is one of the most relaxing, it's soothing. You would stressed out, go sit on the pier for a while, you know. Yep. So when somebody talks about taking it away, I'm kind of like, you know, it's just an awesome place to go. And, you know, I don't know where those plans went either, but I think we got to go back to what we discussed, excuse me, at the strategic planning event where we all sat down and we discussed this, and we said we want to revitalize this. In fact, I thought in our 22 budget we were to have repairs on that area, on those buildings. So I thought that's already been budgeted as far as that goes, so why stop there? I mean, we need to stay focused on those activities where we're at. I'd like to know where that's at, because like I said, we discussed it, and I would like to see us for the next few projects, let's focus on, dividing up that huge project into little areas and seeing how we could get this accomplished over the next few years. Because it could just be where we do phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, phase 5, and that way we can, if we have to have one completed before we can put an application in for the next one, we do it in phases, and then we can say, okay, the first part of this phase, we're going to get this done, and we know it's only going to take us XYZ amount of time so that we can get applied for the next phase. And then we can keep this project rolling rather than keep throwing new things up and stopping, that whole idea. But that's a gem of Deltona, and everybody's familiar with it, and I would love to see that have a lot more focus and emphasis on it.
Well, and I think that part of that plan really involves taking a hard look at the buildings, because since I've been on this dais, we've patched a roof, we've done this, done that, and where are we really with those buildings? I mean, we have to be realistic about the nature of those buildings and whether or not they're salvageable. I mean, I'm not going to be in favor of any more piecemealing in there, especially not for the craft building. And I know that's probably going to make people gasp, but go take a look in there. And the community center as well. So I think we have to, the phasing aspect is great, but we have to be realistic about what we're going to do and not patch and piecemeal. Commissioner Ramos?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think when we talk about a good, worthwhile project, you've hit the nail on the head with the Lakeshore. And it's not just about Deltona. That could become a regional project. I have to tell you, did something with DeBerry, their application for Trail Town to become a trail town. And we took a perspective of regional trails. And while we were filming with them, they were canoeing coming out of our lake shore. So I think let's not think Deltona. I like to think more of this as a regional project that I think the committee would definitely welcome an activity like this. But to Commissioner Bradford's point, let's have something ready so that we can continue. I mean, enough of the drawings, really. We met there. Jerry did a great presentation. I believe we even had someone from the White House come to check part of what we did there in a meeting. But at the end of the day, Lakeshore Drive is a gem. If you haven't gone out there, it's like I always say, if you want to just take a walk, take a jog, just take a bike ride, it's beautiful. But it's a regional perspective that I think we can just get the county on board as well to what we're doing there. I said, Mayor, let's see if we get consensus. And our next project, it should be telling our city manager, work on Lake Shore, and let's see what we can get done.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner King?
My first comment is on ADA or nature. And I think that it's important, and I said this when I first came on board here, that we need to be ADA compliant. We have many people that need help getting around. And it's not just our folks that are, have had issues, but it's our veterans as well. Mm-hmm. This city has over 7,500 veterans, and many of them need help getting around. And to get them in and out of parks can be a chore. You try and push somebody in a wheelchair across uneven ground or grass or mulch, and you're gonna see the issue right away. I mean, people are dumped out of wheelchairs trying to get through those kind of terrains. So I think that in the end, I'm not going to say, oh, we have to have concrete, but we do have to have some kind of material that is hard and soft enough and and flat enough for all of our ADA folks to get around in those parks. And I would leave that up to our city manager and staff to determine what that material needs to be. They've heard us, and I think that they know more than we do about the material that is available. And so that's all I really want to say about that. We need to do what's best for our citizens and preserve nature as best we can. Now, my next comment probably is to Jerry or Ron or someone. Thank you for the map, but it's interesting that there's two of the parks that we apparently have funded money for that aren't even on this map. West Crile isn't on this map, and yet we've got a project that's completed already with some type of nature project or eco project. And where is Rookery Park? Because I've never been to that park.
I agree, Rookery's
And I
not
don't
on
know
here.
where it is.
Yeah, Rookery's not on here.
Where is it? I just want to make an X on my map where it is.
It should be down here.
Madam Mayor, Commission, two questions that I heard. Number one, West Crile is a sports park, and that is a pavilion. It is not a nature park. Secondly, Festival, I believe, Ron, is a basketball court? Okay. Okay, so it is not, it is a sports park, not a nature park. The two nature parks are Blue Heron Phase 2, we've completed Phase 1, and Rookery, which was the second question. Rookery is off of Snook Drive at the western side of Big Lake. Big Lake is on Doyle Road, just past the Moose Lodge if you're headed east.
Is it near Audubon?
It is before you get
Before
to Audubon. Audubon is on the south side, Big Lake and Rookery are on the north side.
So then it would be just east of Saxon Boulevard.
That is
on Doyle
correct.
Road. Is that
Yeah,
right?
as you drop down on Doyle, like you're going past the Moose Lodge, you go past Saxon Boulevard, you drop down past the Moose Lodge into that low area. There's a curve to the left. That's Big Lake on the left-hand side. There's a major wading bird rookery in the spring. Not the big island with the pine trees, but the smaller island behind it is just white with wading birds. It's a major nesting area.
So is the entrance to that park on the east or west side of Big Lake?
West side.
West.
On the west side.
Take Saxon, go up. I apologize, I do not in my head know the name of the street, but they all intersect and turn to the right. You go down and they all hit Snook.
Is it Garfield?
It could be. I'm
Kingway?
okay.
Okay. So that, is it not on the map because we haven't started working on it?
It's not on the map because we don't want to advertise something on the map that people
That isn't
can't
there.
actually go and see.
That
They
isn't
can't
there.
walk on the trail, park in the parking
Right.
lot. It's
Okay.
not there yet.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner McCool?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just driving on this. Again, I brought this up here in our comprehensive plan. Commissioner King, Vice Mayor, and everybody is absolutely correct that we need to be inclusive. I can't drive that home enough. I'm not trying to exclude anyone from our parks. In our comprehensive plan, the first page says that The caring community provides a high quality of life where the people live, work, and play in a safe and secure environment. With an appreciation for our history and our location along the St. Johns River, we ensure a sustainable future through careful stewardship of our resources. And I know that the city manager is getting frustrated with me, but being very patient. I can tell he has his tail here. But I'm saying this for our community and for our people because this talks about our services and developing in a responsible manner, talks about reflects and respects the inherent capabilities and limitations of the existing natural features of the land, talks about protecting our natural, archaeological, and historic resources from any adverse development impacts. And development is what we're doing when we're creating these, right? So they're the engineers. Give us something that is sustainable, it is technical, because we talk about, this last thing that we talk about managing for the future, and it says that we embrace and that we want to ensure a sustainable future. So we have to look out past what is convenient here for the moment. So I'm just trying to drive that home because it is the first tenet of our comprehensive plan. So I let the engineer be the engineer, the city manager be the city leader, and I'm just saying, I want us to remember that as we develop this. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. And I just want to add that when I talk about paving the parking lots in the parks that have gravel currently, you know, we say paving, but we're not saying we have to use cement. Again, you know, we are going to let the professionals decide what kind of material they're going to use. We just have to make it safe for the people that are going to these parks, regardless of what material they use to make the parking lots even for wheelchairs and, as Commissioner King said, for the veterans and those people that have to walk around with a cane or something like that. So I'm sure they'll come up with some kind of material that is safe for the environment and pretty looking. And also, I just wanted to point out for the Lakeshore Drive project, I remember I was with Jerry. We went to the ribbon cutting for the Sanford finalizing their sidewalk by the lake. And we sat there, we stood there with the city manager of Sanford, and we literally pinpointed where Lakeshore Drive was from the point that we were standing. And they were so excited to hear the plans that the city of Deltona were looking into to bring Sanford closer to the city of Deltona. And I think Jerry and Mr. Bonaparte at the same time said, taxi boats. So, you know, we laughed because it was like an echo out of both of them. So definitely we should invest in that area. One thing I do want to say is that we have to give respect to the residents of the area, that the condos and stuff, they also want to be part of the planning. They're not expecting us to do what they tell us to do, but they would at least like to be able to say, can we do this, can you add that, and, you know, take that out. Again, we told them we can't do everything they say, or maybe we could. They'll come up with good ideas, but just out of respect to our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So what a way, I don't know, I'm just thinking, probably because I'm cold, my brain is frozen. What a way to celebrate our 60th anniversary, to redevelop, reimagine, and rediscover Deltona by rediscovering Lakeshore Drive and reimagining it and redeveloping it. What a way to tie that into a 7-year anniversary of the city and a 60-year anniversary of the development of the subdivision of Deltona, because I believe that Lakeshore Community Center was also built at that time. It was built in the 60s, either 63 or something like that. So, I don't know, commissioners, is there a consensus to get staff to look at something like that?
Yes, and Madam Mayor, absolutely. but in thinking about it also holistically and planning for the future, we need to also think about development, because that is a nature corridor, that whole road is, and we need to think hard about development in that corridor, because now we're investing this beautiful eco money and we're talking about it. We have a consensus to develop Lakeshore. Well, Lakeshore runs all the way down to D Ranch Preserve and down that area, and I want us to think about development in that whole area, because we're investing money and we're investing our future in that.
And that we are. Commissioner McCool, you are on the board again.
That's it.
Madam Mayor.
Hold on, Commissioner King, do you want to let him speak first, or did you want to go ahead and say? Okay.
Thinking about Lakeshore Drive, can I just be crazy for a minute?
Sure. Who's not?
When we get real serious about Lakeshore Drive, why don't we think about, and we want to rethink all of this and redo things? Let's think about maybe when we build boat ramps and docks and all of the things that need to be there, let's think about maybe reestablishing a ferry that goes from Deltona to Sanford. I mean, what an awesome thing. People in Deltona who run down to Lakeshore, get on a ferry, go across over to Sanford for an afternoon or an evening, and not have to drive around 415 or I-4
Vice versa.
or 1792 to get there. It would make for an awesome evening to go on a ferry. Let's think about that. You want to think outside the box, Commissioner McCool. Let's think about the way it used to be and bring back some of those things that used to be there. I think that would be an awesome thing to do.
And what a way to connect the trail system.
Exactly. So I'm just throwing that out. It's on record. I think that we should look into something like that. In addition to whatever docks and seawalls and things we're going to have down there, let's make a dock available for some type of a ferry that could get folks from one side of the lake to the other. Thanks.
You are very welcome. And I think Commissioner Sosa, are you okay with having staff look into something like that for Lakeshore Drive? Commissioner Bradford?
Yes, Mayor.
Vice Mayor? Yes. Well, look at him. Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sir, you have, yes, ma'am.
Really quickly, just want to point out to you all, too, that one of the changes that we made with this next iteration of ECHO, exceptional projects, which used to be a 4-1 match, are now a 1-to-1 match. What it sounds like you're talking about is an exceptional project, so that reduces the match requirement for the city under the new guidelines. So I'm loving what I'm hearing, and this is exactly what I hope that we're going to do across the county, is look at projects. I just want to leave you with these numbers. Total revenue collected first 20 years was over close to $112 million. And it's going to be more than that this next 20 years. And we spent of that about $90 million went into projects across this county. So just be thinking about designing that as an exceptional project.
Yeah.
Can I ask her a question, Mayor?
Sure.
So when we're talking exceptional projects, it says the exceptional grant awards were increased to 2.5 million from 1.8. So
Yes,
is that, since we have like 2 grant periods this year, so would that be like each grant period? So would it be 2.5 and 2.5, or would it be for like?
It's usually lifetime.
A lifetime,
It's a
okay.
lifetime amount. But it is now just a 1-to-1 match, where before it used to be 4-to-1.
So would we be able to do, so if we divided it up in phases, would that still be considered one project?
That's a really good question that I think that the ECHO committee would need to look at that, how that would be done. because we do a lot of projects are done in segments. Certainly, the Holly Hill project has been done that way, but their first grant was just a regular grant, and then they came back for the exceptional. So I don't know. I can't answer that question tonight, but I certainly think it's worthy to think about.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a question before you sit down. Out of that $90 million that was used in the county, how much of that was spent in our city?
I don't know. I can look it up on the dashboard. It's all there on the dashboard. I'm just looking at the overall financial history of the program for the last 20 years. As a Deltona citizen, I'll say probably not enough, personally. But I do want to say, Commissioner, that I absolutely agree with you. My husband is now almost wheelchair bound, a veteran, and I clearly understand what you're saying. And actually, one of the projects I'd like to see the county do is to take some of our forested lands in the center of the county and put a driving loop in, because that way, just like they have down at Merritt Island, they have a couple driving loops, because we go there all the time, because he can enjoy the nature from the car. So you are absolutely correct. We have to be sure that our handicapped community is considered in anything that we do.
Yes,
So, thank you.
Yes.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
I probably wasn't real clear at the beginning, and I apologize right up front. The reason we were suggesting Lakeshore as opposed to continuing with the nature parks is the amount of money required for the nature park is well within our funding ability. Projects such as Lakeshore, we can maximize the amount of money we get from grant money. And, one of the things, from a financial standpoint, if Mr. Sosa and I disagree on what is being financially responsible and financially conservative, but, it's financially responsible in local government to attempt to get as much of other people's money so that we reduce the impact on our citizens. And as I said, the nature parks are well within our capability. Doing something like Lakeshore, while we can do it, it sure would be nice to take advantage of an incredible resource that we have in this community in Mid-Northie to pursue some projects that we otherwise probably would not spend the money for, yet would be a major, major improvement to the community. Ms. McCool, I can assure you that we will find ways of handling nature parks. You and I have talked about creating a program where if the new subdivision is coming in, there's a truly unique tree, that we have a contract with a tree spade company that would come in, take the tree, and we have already predetermined places in the city that we would like to have those truly special trees at one of our nature parks or wherever it may be. And we would move it to that location. We save the tree, we put it in a place where our residents can appreciate it. That's part of the programs that we're going to be rolling out as part of our reimagining, redevelop, rediscover. We just have to think outside the box, and there's so many ways that we can achieve these things. And so, the purpose of us bringing up Lakeshore was twofold. First of all, we can get a significant amount of money from the ECHO program. And then second of all, it's a precursor to what we need to do to build the Blue Wave Trail, which, oh, by the way, as Ms. Northey said, will be a significant project for the ECHO grant program. We would have a facility in this city that would be unique to Central Florida. And that's the kind of things we want to achieve. And so those are the reasons that I brought up Lakeshore.
Thank you, sir. You have your consensus from the commission. Do you have any comments, other comments this evening, sir? Before we go to, is there anyone signed up for public comment, Bridget?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. No, sir? No, sir. And we have no public comment this evening. Thank you, commissioners. Let's redevelop, reimagine, and rediscover Deltona. We are adjourned.